The Mandalorian Season 3 is over. I've already done reviews for every episode as well as the entire season. I'll link to them in the cards if you want a more critical discussion of the series, because this video is not that. This video is everything I loved about Season 3, both big moments and small. In Chapter 17, The Apostate, I enjoy that the opening titles don't use the normal music, but instead let us hear the sounds of the armorer making Ragnar's helmet. And it's just cool to see a Mandalorian making a helmet for the first time. Like many of the monsters in this season, the turtle dinosaur comes out of nowhere, but I do think the fight is exciting and some of the shots used are awesome. Grogu popping up in his little bubble feels almost like a sitcom where the fan-favorite character walks through a door and the audience loses their mind applauding. I also love the look the armorer and Paz and the rest of the Mandalorians give to Din, like, oh, it's you. The Purrgil scene took me completely by surprise and was a nice moment to just take in the beauty and mystery of Star Wars. I love seeing Navarro improving more and more every season. It's like in a video game where your experience points can also go towards building up a town or something. The Kowakian monkey lizards living freely in the trees instead of being caged and eaten is a good symbol of Navarro's improvement as well. I like the band in the city just hanging out, but Greef's cape droids are the best. I loved seeing them bouncing down the stairs trying to keep up with Karga. A+ droids will buy a cape so I can have my own. I love the running joke of people not liking or caring about Grogu's real name. Greef's delivery of, "if you say so," is hilarious. I like seeing Grogu using the Force for frivolous things like spinning his chair or eating snacks without needing a nap afterwards. Vane and the other pirates in this episode look so good. The prosthetic work is insane and the costumes are just neat. More pirates in Star Wars, please. I like the symbolism of Vane demanding the school go back to being a tavern and Greef's refusal to move backwards on his own morality and his city's improvements. I like that IG-11's reactivation feels hopeful at first and then quickly turns to terror, and the use of stop-motion looking animation was a nice touch. I love the Anzellans in this episode. The puppets and their articulation look amazing. The fact that they are kind of like redneck mechanics you can barely understand is hilarious. Greef crouched by the door translating for Din is some great comedy as well. And of course, Bad Baby No Squeezy instantly became iconic. The entire dogfight through the asteroid belt looks fantastic. Some of the starfighter action in previous seasons has been lackluster, but this moment was fast and exciting. Din popping out of the asteroids to blow up a ship and then zooming off again is so cool. And Vane says, "Avast!" Again, I say more pirate stuff in Star Wars. Speaking of, Gorian Shard's ship is a great design with the deck and the cannons. Shard himself is one of the weirdest, pulpiest alien designs in recent Star Wars memory, and I love that fans started giving him nicknames like Kale Organa. The design of the Kryze Mandalorian castle is also very cool, and you've gotta love the way Bo-Katan sits on her throne. But even more than that, I love the TikTok it spawned made by Discount Bo-Katan. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. In Chapter 18, The Mines of Mandalore, it was really neat seeing the ways Bunta Eve was celebrated on Tatooine besides pod racing, which still involves drifting around the city and doing donuts in the garage. I love the moment of Grogu flipping into Peli's arms. I was in the middle of teasing Molly for getting emotional about every time he's on screen, but then he jumped out of the cockpit and I screamed along with her. R5-D4 is a treasure this entire episode. I love when his panel falls off and the fact that he acts like a coward the entire time. Peli slamming the cockpit shut on Din as he questions R5 being built for adventure gave me a good laugh. I love how quickly we got to Mandalore this season. I assumed the quest to reach the living waters would take all 8 chapters. I figured starting this episode on Tatooine meant we'd be on the planet doing a favor for Peli the whole time. They really messed with my expectations in the best way. I don't know what the heck is going on with the cyborg down in the Mandalorian sewers. It is insanity, but I like it, and the design is so cool and sinister. Grogu trying to be stealthy, waddling around the cave is wonderful. His escape from the mines is super fun. It feels like a theme park ride, with those flying creatures popping out at you as you zip by. I love the moments of confidence from Grogu, where the Alamite scares him at first, but he sits up and uses the Force to deal with it. Katie Sackhoff is so great in these episodes. I'm a fan of Bo-Katan, but I've also been a fan of Katie for years because Molly and I are huge Battlestar Galactica fans. Seeing her crush it in this series just makes my heart happy. The gauntlet flying into Mandalore looks fantastic. I love the details of the water droplets and the way the wings shudder in the wind. I like this little weird droid pump thing. It doesn't seem like it wants to be stuck down there with the cyborg, and I'm sad Bo-Katan has to shoot it. Bo's fight with the cyborg is awesome, and I cheered when she grabbed the darksaber. I like the irony of Din, who thinks of himself as the epitome of what it means to be a Mandalorian, and he's never had pog soup, something Bo considers to be a mainstay in Mandalorian cuisine. The history lesson about her family had me leaning in so much, hoping for a Duchess Satine mention. We didn't get that, but I was still very into everything she said. I love her sarcastic reading of the plaque posted near the living waters and the legend of Mandalore the Great, but then she solemnly watches Din retaking the creed. It was a nice moment. And of course, I love the Mythosaur. Every once in a while, this series will show me something I simply never thought I'd get to see on screen growing up, and this was one of those moments. In Chapter 19, The Convert, Din waking up after nearly drowning and claiming, "I am redeemed," like he didn't almost die, is hilarious to me. Grogu probably trying to say this is the way along with Din and Bo-Katan is adorable. Again, I have to point out how awesome the dogfights are in this season. Din leaping out of the ship is a badass moment, Bo-Katan zooming through the canyons is exciting, R5 provides some good comedy throughout it all, and finally, the drift is amazing. I was genuinely distraught when the Imperials blew up the Kryze castle. We just got it. RIP to that one droid. I get tired of seeing Tatooine sometimes, but I am not feeling that way about Coruscant. We have seen it a lot in the past few months, and I love it. I like the detail of Pershing touching his previously injured ear as a symbol of his itch to continue his cloning research. I like how consistent the Coruscanti elite feel with characters like Perrin and Andor. I had a good laugh at the moment where Pershing is basically listening to Wikipedia in bed. Seeing Monument Plaza and the peak of Mount Umate in live action was awesome. I love the big Tongs Day alien on the train, he's just a fun design. Katie O'Brien and Omid Abtahi are both great in this episode. I love Katie's soulless stare at the end. In Chapter 20, The Foundling, Grogu playing with the rock creatures is so super cute. And then look at his dart bracelet, it's too big for his little arm. I find it hilarious that he gets paint on his one burlap sack shirt. I hope laundry is part of the Mandalorian creed. The sunset shot of Bo-Katan chasing the flying creature looks fantastic. Grogu waddling in the sand to follow the armorer is the best. This is a great episode for cute Grogu moments. And I'm so impressed by how incredibly sad that puppet can look. It broke my heart. I love seeing even babier Yoda in the flashback. He is so tiny I can't stand it. But Kelleran Beck is obviously the highlight of this episode and maybe the season. I lost my mind at his appearance. Seeing this character was rewarding as a fan of Jedi Temple Challenge, but the justice for Ahmed Best was even better. Seeing fans celebrate him the way he has always deserved, that was a good day on Twitter for once. Kelleran Beck instantly jumped up to become one of my all-time favorite Jedi. I love that the bird creatures stored Ragnar in its stomach and vomited him back up. It's so weird and pulpy, and I can't imagine the therapy that kid needs after spending a whole day inside a bird. Ragnar's rescue is really exciting and fun. Mandalorians using jetpacks looks better and better every season. I was relieved the baby birds were taken care of. It would have been weird if an episode all about saving children ended with letting a bunch of baby animals starve to death. Shout out to all the Bo-Katan cosplayers that were either annoyed or excited or both when they saw they'd have to update their armor with a new pauldron. In Chapter 21, The Pirate, of course I love the return of Carson Teva, but I also love his sick new flight jacket. And I like seeing the return of Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, and Deborah Chow, even if they're more in the background. And obviously, I loved seeing Zeb in live action, and he looks phenomenal. The sassy droid dumping a bunch of data cards on Tim Meadows' desk gave me a big laugh. I also think Meadows did a good job as the comically apathetic New Republic officer. While I have questions about how Carson Teva reached out to R5 and how he knew the droid was with the Mandalorians, the reveal that he was Carson's inside source also gave me a good laugh. Lots of droid comedy in this episode. I like that they flipped my expectations on Paz Vizsla, because I was ready to roll my eyes when he stood up to talk, but he actually sided with Din and had a change of heart. The build-up to the Battle of Navarro was very well done, fast-paced and exciting. I was genuinely mad to see that the pirates did, in fact, turn the school back into a bar. The Ugnaught that looks like Shmi from Peter Pan has been getting a lot of attention, and for good reason. He's wonderful. I have never not been hyped to see the Mandalorians falling out of that dropship. Paz's landing specifically, and then his onslaught with his heavy blaster was amazing. Just in general, this episode has some great Mandalorian action, like this dude surfing down on a crashing pirate starfighter. The final scene with Carson was very tense. I was terrified some ship was going to drop out of hyperspace and blast him. I really like the little droid drone he uses to get a closer look at the shuttle. In Chapter 22, Guns for Hire, the Quarren captain's water tank that transforms into her command chair is the coolest thing. Her prosthetics look fantastic as well. The musical welcome Bo-Katan and Din receive on Plazir 15 is funny. I love all the aliens hanging out with the Duchess and Bombardier, and the fact that they're all drinking out of a tank with a creature in it. It's so delightfully weird. I like the repurposed stormtrooper armor seen throughout the palace. While it took some getting used to, I do enjoy Jack Black and Lizzo in their roles. I like to think Lizzo's request to hold the baby wasn't scripted, she just wanted to. Jack Black is very over the top, but in the right kind of way for an episode like this. As a Back to the Future fan, I also have to give some love to Christopher Lloyd. The montage of malfunctioning droids is funny. I really appreciate the callback to Kawil as Din negotiates with the Ugnaughts. Din later kicking B-2 battle droids as the B-1 objects is a funny moment, and so is Din diving through a window to stop the fleeing droid. The little police droids setting up a perimeter are fun, and then the Star Wars version of a matchbook called a Spark Pad, which leads Din and Bo to a droid bar. That's perfect. The droid morgue is also a funny idea, and I like the white version of Dr. Ball. I love that the Arabesh on this screen reads, "This means nothing, however fans may interpret the hell out of it, CSI for the win." I translate a lot of Arabesh to see if there's anything interesting or fun hidden in the episodes. Stuff like this always excites me. Grogu helping Lizzo cheat at Animal Croquet or whatever that game was made me laugh, and so did Jack Black's delivery of, "I had a feeling you hated me." I love that Grogu being knighted made Molly cry. The fight between Bo-Katan and Axe Woves was awesome. I love some good Mandalorian-specific fight choreography, and I love Bo defending Din's status as a Mandalorian. In Chapter 23, The Spies, the opening moments on Coruscant look and sound great. It feels like it could have been a scene from Andor, and I like that consistency between series. The Shadow Council scene is full of great stuff. Captain Pelion, Brindle Hux, the Thrawn mention, the intrigue of Project Necromancer, so great. And I love that Hux is played by Donald Gleason's brother, Brian Gleason. The arrival of Axe Woves and his Mandalorians is great. I love the tense feeling as the two groups join forces, and I like Bo-Katan hitting Axe for being overly pompous about it all. Grogu's giggle when he sees the Anzellan driving IG-12 is too cute. I love that the Anzellan is clearly a puppet in the way it scrambles down the droid's arm and hops onto the table, and it's too easy to love the callback to Bad Baby No Squeezy. Greef Karga acting like a grandfather giving his grandson an inappropriate gift is funny, but Grogu inside IG-12 is a gift to the audience. It is hilarious. Yes, yes, yes. The Mandalorian fleet leaving Navarro and arriving at Mandalore looks incredible. All of the fleet shots look great. The scene between Din and Bo-Katan on the boat thing is excellent. I love Din finally rejecting the rules of bloodlines or the Darksaber or whatever, instead choosing to follow his leader based on honor and character. But Grogu stopping the fight between Axe and Paz is probably my favorite scene of the episode. It takes the comedy of the yes and no button mashing and turns it into something emotional and impactful. The fight with the Imperial Supercommandos in the Great Forge is some awesome Mandalorian action. The gradual reveal of an Imperial base hidden within the planet itself is well executed. I love that Din gets captured this season instead of Grogu for a third time. Seeing Grogu looking on so helpless is sad, but I'm glad to have the tables turned this time around. I've been vocal about how I only like hearing "this is the way" when it means something real, and Paz's final "this is the way" is exactly how I love to hear it. And Vizsla's last stand is thrilling. His blaster melting was such a cool touch. Then the Praetorian Guards entering the scene was chilling. In Chapter 24, The Return, Grogu spraying Din with Bacta to make sure he's okay is both funny and adorable. The TIE Interceptors deploying out of the hangar looked awesome. Gideon watching Din and Grogu running through his facility, represented by a big red dot and a tiny green dot, gave me a good laugh. R5 continues to be a cowardly treasure. Din taking out the Imperial Supercommandos one laser gate at a time, collecting their gear along the way, was a fun action sequence. The mouse droids attacking R5-D4 was so goofy, but I enjoyed it. Bo-Katan with the Darksaber and the Armorer with her tools leading an army of Mandalorians was a great fist pump moment. Din and Grogu's fight with the Praetorian Guards was great. I loved seeing Grogu defend himself with the exact lessons Luke taught him, as well as the two of them working as a team. While I wish Bo-Katan had made the decision to set aside or destroy the Darksaber, I do like that she no longer believes she needs it to rule. I love Grogu's little knee slide as he force pushes Moff Gideon. Amazing. The image of Gideon then dying alone while 3 very different Mandalorians survive the flames together was beautiful and a nice parallel to Grogu's hero moment in Season 1. I really like that Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandalorians honor the Children of the Watch by wearing their helmets as Ragnar Vizsla takes the creed again. And I like that Ragnar's oath no longer mentions never showing his face again, perhaps showing that the Children of the Watch are growing more flexible. Sticking with Ragnar, I love that he is standing next to Axe Woves as the Great Forge is ignited. Axe and Paz definitely had a rivalry, but I think this is a good symbol of the growing unity between Mandalorians, and I'd like to think that Axe maybe cared for Ragnar moving forward. The ceremony itself is great, with the Armorer and Bo-Katan sharing the lighting of the Great Forge together. Din's growth from the very first episode to the present is nice. He goes from rolling his eyes at the New Republic's ineffectiveness in the Outer Rim to deciding maybe they can do some good if he were to help them. I like IG-11's kind of bashful shrug or bow to the applause of the citizens of Navarro. And I love the peaceful ending to the season, putting a nice bow on what feels like the first full arc of the series. That brings us to the end of everything I loved about Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Let me know your favorite moments in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page for video reactions and audio commentaries for every episode. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.